Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we have been working on this small sat launcher. And I don't remember if we fixed the issues with the last iteration of it. Let's just launch it and find out what happens. I I definitely don't remember what the situation here is. So, we'll see. We were struggling to reach orbit with our payload, but it was mostly due to low thrust to weight in a couple of locations, this being a major one. So let's see where we are here. Let's lift this guy right on off. I'm going to go into 2x because I don't think that we're actually going to succeed here. We're going to put this over to about a 60-degree pitch. Looks good. Looks like we're also rolling to azimuth, which is nice. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so we're just going to continue to accelerate up here. We're seeing these SRBs beginning to power down. So that's good timing. Goodbye, SRBs. And we're just going to continue to punch upwards here. We're going to run out of fuel in this stage fairly quickly, and that's a fair amount of shock force happening there. Okay, that is noted. So we're going to need to bring this to around a 10-degree pitch here pretty soon. Okay, we're losing attitude because of our loss of thrust. That's fine for now. So we're going to burn about here, and we are suffering heat damage from the nose cone, but that is appearing to cool down. So that looks good. Our thrust to weight here is low, keep in mind. We're 0.18 on the thrust to weight, but this is all the way up to 246, so we may have actually fixed the issues. That felt like a pretty good launch, to be honest. So that seems fine. Time to apoapsis of 3.7 minutes. That is quite a long time. We do have 24 minutes of burn time in this stage, which is mildly insane. So the next thing to be jettisoned would be the fairing, and we're high enough to do that. Get out of here, fairing. We don't need your mass anymore. So that'll boost up our thrust to weight a little bit. You can see here 3.4, 3.3 minutes to apoapsis now. So we're definitely struggling a bit on that. Let's lock our velocity to prograde at this point, but we should be at orbital prograde. So something about like this. We're looking to push that apoapsis up to 590 kilometers. And the question is, do we have enough thrust in this stage to achieve orbit? You can see our orbital velocity is currently dropping, which isn't ideal, that's for sure. So our apoapsis is still going up, but we certainly need more thrust in this stage. Time to apoapsis is now 2.9 minutes. Okay. We need like 1,500 more meters per second of orbital speed to achieve orbital velocity. So that's going to be interesting. We have no lack of fuel up here, but what we do lack is absolutely some thrust to weight. So we've got plenty of delta V to get where we're going. The main problem, of course, is that our thrust to weight is rough. We can see our orbital velocity is continuing to drop, and the pace at which it drops is improving. Our thrust to weight is only 0.25, so there's definitely an issue with this engine. We can work on that. But I want to know if burning pure prograde, we even have the thrust to weight to achieve orbit here. So let's go up to 2x speed. And let's keep an eye on this. So we can see we're 2 minutes to apoapsis at this point. Apoapsis is currently 271 kilometers. You can see our periapsis is rising faster than our apoapsis, which is expected at this point. Our orbital velocity is slowing on how quickly it's going up. So that's noted. And we're just keeping an eye on that time to apoapsis, which is going down. Now, we're probably going to, if we want to get there on this thrust to weight, we're probably going to need to angle up and pitch ourselves to even 45 degrees to help counteract the gravity. But that's not going to be enough because our thrust to weight is so low. So I want to just leave this on prograde for the moment. And we can see our time to apoapsis is not great. So yeah, we definitely have a thrust to weight issue in this stage. I'm pretty content with our first stage. Let's just undo and exit. There we go. I'm pretty content with our first stage, but that second stage engine definitely needs more thrust, or we need to put in another stage. One or the other. So, let's take a look at this engine and see what we can do. So our nozzle throat size is 80%. I definitely think that we should boost this up to 100%. That will help matters. Our nozzle length will increase vacuum efficiency, and we do want that to be the case. We can boost up the size of this engine up to maybe like 100%. That puts us up to 0.43 thrust to weight, nearly doubling our thrust to weight there. We can also put it at like 150, which puts us at 0.96. If we did that, what would this interstage look like? That's a very strange looking interstage. It would need to be about that length. Okay, so that would significantly help matters. That will alone boost this a lot. It'll also boost the cost of this. This is currently 2.8 mil. How much are we getting for this? 2.1. I feel like we should cut the cost of this in some way. So, it's mostly this engine that's the cost. Okay, that engine is too expensive. So with that in mind, I think we can try to take this back to SRBs and have it be something like this. So taking this back to SRBs is going to be a little bit awkward, but we can do 4x. Do we want to add a control surface here? No, we can't actually do that. We need more tech for it. To be honest, I kind of wonder if we need the stabilizers at all. Let's try it without the stabilizers, and we're going to need a lot of gnome engines. Or rather, not gnome engines, goblin solid rocket motors. So we're going to need a lot of these, and I want to focus the camera down here. Thank you very much. And I want to bring up the size of this up to maximum. So something like that, and then we're going to need to do 6x symmetry, and then we're going to do it again here. Okay, so this stage has a thrust to weight of 0.83. That is fine. I'm going to do another round of these. There we go. And in fact, we could do another one still. Something kind of like that. Okay, that puts us at 1.41. And then if we were to put one more round in here, I don't actually want it to snap here. Can we disable snapping? Probably. But I'm not sure how. But what we can certainly do is we can group these together a little bit closer and then put this up over here. Like that. And then we can just spread these out ever so slightly, about like this. There we go. And that is currently 1.69 thrust to weight, so that's 1.74. And then we could do one more ring of these. I'm not sure what the stage timing here is going to look like, but that on its own is a significant price reduction, and that puts us at just over 2 thrust to weight. Let's see what this stage timing looks like, and that is significantly better in terms of the cost. So we should be much more profitable at this point. Okay, let's throttle up. Let's put this at 60 degrees, and we'll see how that feels. Okay, let's take this up to 2x. Off we go. So the question is, how much do we have left in these side boosters, right? And it looks like those are currently decelerating their thrust. Okay, so good timing on the side boosters. We're not going to have much for horizontal speed here without control surfaces because these don't have gimbal. But that's understood. We're just punching up through the atmosphere right now. This is definitely lower thrust than what we had before, but it's way cheaper. So that looks good. Okay, SRBs are off. And at this point, I want to just continue to hold here. You can see that our thrust to weight is holding our velocity here. I want to put us in orbital mode. Our velocity is increasing. That is a good sign, but it's expected because the thrust to weight is way, way, way better. And our delta V here should be plenty in theory. Let's take this over to about 10 degrees at this point. And we can see our apoapsis is still going up pretty quickly. So that looks pretty good. This is a significant improvement. Yeah, this is definitely the way to go. So we have that much better booster, but that engine was so expensive. That liquid-fueled engine that we had down there, it was incredibly powerful, but incredibly expensive. So that is definitely noted. Our stage delta V is, of course, ticking down here, but this is fully expected. We're just angling to get our apoapsis up to 590, and the main question is, do we have enough DV to get ourselves there? And I'm pretty sure we do at this point. We absolutely should. We're spending very little time fighting gravity at this point. In fact, I want to bring us down to about 0 degrees. And we can see that apoapsis still going up. That is a very good sign. We've got about 20% fuel left. So 590 is the target here. That's going up faster and faster. I'm throttling us down because I want to hit that fairly precisely. Okay, so we're just bringing this up to 590. There we go. And now we need to get our periapsis to 535. So plan a burn at the apoapsis. And this is going to be 538. I guess that's close enough. Okay, I'm not going to be too concerned about that. So we're going to auto-execute this burn and warp on over. That sounds great. So we're going to have plenty of DV for this burn, I think. This burn is, yeah, it's going to be a couple hundred meters per second, but if we check in here, we've got over a kilometer per second. So this is absolutely fine. This does do the trick. We actually didn't ditch the fairing, which we should have done a while ago. Okay, there we go. And now all we need to do is detach the small sat. Beautiful. So our small sat is delivered to its desired orbit, and we got ourselves a good amount of payment here. Our launch cost was 1.28 million. We got 1.69, so it was profitable, and that is what our mission is, of course. So we're going to destroy that craft, and let's check what that other small sat mission was here. Okay, so we've got 2 of these. This is much higher, and it's 2 satellites. There's also this mission, which this would be done probably at a similar time as this one, in theory. But 2 satellites is going to be a heavier payload, and we definitely don't have the DV to lift double the payload to, like, double the altitude. It wouldn't require that much more DV, but it would require some. So that is definitely noted. This is a very similar mission to what we just did. A little bit more delta V would probably be fine here. So let's go into here, and let's consider enlarging these side boosters just a touch. So bring them up to 0.5 meter in radius. And I want this guy to be at 0.5 meter in radius as well. There we go. And then reattaching that right about there. It's not perfect in the positioning. Yes, definitely not perfect in the positioning. But I guess it's okay. It'll do. So we'll just leave it about like that, and then like 1 more round, or maybe 2 more rounds of engines out here is what I'm thinking to boost up the thrust to weight there a little bit. So we're going to need to have... Right. We need to make this not be mirrored so that this can be mirrored. It's mildly awkward that that's the way it works, but it's okay. We can work with it. So it'd be something like that. And then we'd re-mirror this. Well, radial, like so. And then I think we would just move down where our interstage is, to be honest. So that would end up coming down to be about right here. Okay, so something like that. That'll give us a little longer burn in here, And we'll see what those timings look like. This is still going to be the one small sat, and we're looking to have, yeah, this mission here. So we're just looking to go up a little bit higher. We should have had the Delta V as it was, but we need to be increasing our DV for this mission. So let's see how this feels. This is, of course, going to launch from the alley pad. I would much prefer launching from the village pad, but it's too tall and too wide. So we have to launch from the alley pad, which is quite a lot more expensive. Even so, we should be able to make our money back here. So let's go to 60 degrees and let's lift this guy off. There we go. Excellent. Had to wait for those SRBs to ramp up, but that's to be expected. So all is looking good thus far. We're definitely not going tremendously fast right now. I'm a little potentially concerned about the positioning of these interstages causing collisions up here, because it might kick it out this direction. We'll see how that goes. That might be a thing. So we're still at peak engine thrust. It's now starting to decrease. So that is indicating that our side boosters are running out of fuel. That's fine. We'll just carry them as far as their thrust will take us, and then we'll ditch them. They're still burning. Okay, now they're done. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of, was that it would come back and hit us like that. But it's, I guess, fine. So we're just continuing to push our way up here. We've got 10% thrust left in these SRBs. And let's just get what altitude we can out of that. We're having some awkward pitching here. That's noted, but that's probably due to that collision. Okay, SRBs are burned out. Let's go. We're able to move very easily due to the gimbal, and we're going to ditch this fairing right now. We're officially out of the atmosphere. Let's just bring this directly over to 0 degrees and be working on getting as much horizontal speed as we possibly can. We want to be in orbital mode here, of course, and we can see our orbital velocity is currently dropping. This is because we don't have very much horizontal speed built up. Our lateral velocity, not very high. It is definitely working its way up, but our vertical velocity is where we have pretty much all of our speed right now. So we got to get that converted over, and that is, of course, happening. We've got about 5 kilometers per second overall in this stage, so that's looking pretty decent. We could potentially think about tossing a little more fuel into it now that we have a more powerful vacuum-optimized engine up here. And that might end up being necessary for the double small sat, but to be honest, we're not going to have a larger fairing or anything. We're going to be able to just slot a pair of small sats on there. Let's see how much fuel we have left after we get this to its destined orbit. I do think that we're going to be able to get this to its destined orbit here. Yeah, we definitely should be able to. Thrust to weight is almost up to 2. We've still got 4 kilometers per second in this thing. We should be fine here. We're burning purely horizontally at this point. You can see our vertical velocity is decreasing, and our lateral velocity has taken over, so that looks good. We do still need a fair amount of velocity here to achieve orbit, but that's fine. We're just working on pushing up the apoapsis with lateral speed, which is kind of a weird thing to be doing, but that's what we're doing. So we can see that our time to apoapsis is currently 2.4 minutes, and I expect that to be going up right now. So I'm really not too concerned about it. Our thrust to weight is very, very solid at this moment. And you can see here our periapsis is going up much faster than our apoapsis, which is absolutely expected. Let's check here. Yeah, 2.5 minutes to apoapsis. That is indeed what we're looking for. So our orbital velocity is currently about 2,100 meters per second. We've got about 1.2 kilometers per second left before we're in orbital velocities. But this is looking very good. We're going to start seeing this apoapsis going up faster and faster, and that is definitely what it's doing right now. And that periapsis is coming up very nicely as well. So that all looks good. So the next flight, we're going to be doubling the payload. So the question is, how much margin do we have here? Do we have enough margin to get this where we're trying to go with double the payload and going to an even higher altitude than this? Higher altitudes aren't that much harder to get to, so I'm not too concerned about it. Okay, let's just get this into 672. There we go. And we are in orbit now with 17% fuel left, so that's really not too bad. We're going to do a planned burn at apoapsis, and this is going to be a prograde burn, bringing this up to 604 kilometers. So that'll be somewhere around... Okay, that's 600. This is 607. This is just very difficult to actually do extremely fine burns here, but there we go. 672 by 604. Let's do it. That'll be a 7-second burn time, and let's see how much fuel we have left over. Okay, so we have 14% fuel left over, and that is 33 seconds of burn time with 1.63 kilometers per second. That seems doable. Let's detach the small sat, get our payment, and we can see here we made a small profit. Not a huge one, but a small one. We'll recover that craft, and we'll actually destroy it, and we would very much like to get ourselves a... Well, I want to detach our fairing for now. We'd very much like to get ourselves a second small sat on here. So let's put a small sat here or so. And then let's just... Oh, right, we can't actually do that. Okay, let's put this about here. And then duplicate it and put it about here. Now, if we put our fairing back on, do we have clipping? We do not. Okay. One thing I would like to think about is slightly increasing the amount of fuel in this stage. So bringing it up to maybe like 3.5 meters. Something like that. It's going to be a little bit more thrust that we need, but that should be reasonably fine. And at this point, I kind of want to get rid of this guy and just bring this up. Like that. And then make this be a little more centered. I do feel like this is the better way to go, so that'll be fine. Let's just move this up to be about here or so. That looks reasonable. We're going to be sitting on these engines. I guess that's fine. Okay, so what are we looking at for our contract here? So this is 2 small sats, and that is going to be going pretty high up. No doubt about that. So 1703 kilometers. We did extend this stage here, so that should be reasonably fine. And yes, this is what we want. Let's put this out on the pad. It's a little heavier, so our launch costs keep going up. $15 per kilogram is quite a lot of launch cost. No doubt about it. Let's go. So off we go here. And we'll see if we have enough to lift this payload up. I think we do, most likely. At this point, this rocket should be pretty well set up for these sort of small sat missions. So that's fine. We're beginning to lose thrust in our side boosters. Fully expected. We're also having some attitude issues, potentially, but it's fine. Okay. We need to ditch those, for sure. We're losing thrust here now. We've got 5% thrust left. There's definitely some attitude issues, so some stabilizers would not necessarily be the worst thing in the world. And let's pitch right on over. Fantastic. So we're going to get ourselves some horizontal speed here. We had very little lateral speed, but this is definitely something we want to do. So we've got about 4 kilometers per second in this tank. Noted. We're high enough to ditch our fairing, and that's going to boost up our delta V by a fair amount because we're no longer carrying that weight. That looks good. And apparently we're rolling. I mean, that doesn't matter. But apparently we're rolling. Sure. I'm not sure why we're rolling, but whatever. So now we need to bring this up to an apoapsis of 1703, right? We can see our time to apoapsis is 1.6 minutes, and we're still cruising through on 2x here. We can see our time to apoapsis is currently dropping. Thrust to weight is quite high here, though, so I think as we continue to build up our lateral speed, we should, in theory, start to see this slow and then push back out. We're getting closer and closer to prograde here, so we should be okay here. I don't think we're going to have to pitch up at all. It's definitely still coming down at a reasonable speed, though. So we're seeing that surface velocity kick up here. That's understood. Maybe we do have to nose up, but our thrust to weight is getting up there. What's our lateral velocity at? 2 kilometers per second? Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on it for now. We're still 18 seconds to apoapsis at this point. Now 15. Our apoapsis isn't moving very much. Let's go ahead and pitch up to about 10 degrees. There we go. Now the apoapsis is moving an awful lot. Okay, I'm going to take us out of time acceleration. And we're just targeting 1703 here. Okay, that's 1725. I'm going to call that good enough. So we're then going to plan a burn at the apoapsis, and this is, of course, going to take us up to 820 kilometers. So at this point, we don't need all that much DV to do that. 821 is good enough. Let's call that good, and let's execute that burn. So around we go. Nice. And we're going to be executing this burn right about now. Where are we, in fact? We're on the night side, aren't we? Pretty sure this is Drew here. Okay, so 822. Now all we need to do is detach both of our small sats. Get out of here, small sats. We don't like you. Fantastic. So that made us quite a lot of money in comparison. Wonderful. And with that, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to continue working through some of these contracts, and this is definitely proving to be quite lucrative. We've got a lot of money on hand. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.